The Motherhood Cost Loop, How Women Lose Wealth at Every Life Stage. This is not a single gap. It is a loop with costs that compound across the life course. As our governments continue to count the cost of birth rate decline around the world, warning of consequences for GDP, pension solvency, and social programs, it is worth pausing on a contradiction they have yet to resolve. The state wants children. The market does not want to pay for them. And in the cost between those two positions, well, that's absorbed by mothers. Beyond the presence or absence of state incentives and supports, there's a market infrastructure that makes becoming a mother a cyclical, compounding exercise in economic erosion, not a one-time sacrifice, not a temporary interruption. It is a loop with a financial penalty embedded at every stage of a woman's life. The Motherhood Cost Loop. It has 5 stages. They are not sequential. They overlap, they repeat, and they compound. You do not move through them and arrive at stability, but accumulate the compromises as lifetime financial losses. The entry cost. Think about the last time you heard someone say they were hiding a pregnancy from their employer. Think of how ordinary that sentence sounds. We've normalized a reality in which women strategically time when they disclose a pregnancy, waiting out a probationary period, holding it past an annual review, calculating the risk of being visibly, inconveniently pregnant at work. The instinct is not paranoia. Most private employers are not organized around the reproductive years of their workforce. They're organized around productivity, availability, and uninterrupted outputs. A pregnancy is a known interruption, and as we have learned, known interruptions are held against the worker. In the United States, outside of 13 states and the District of Columbia, maternity leave is an unpaid affair. Federal law provides 12 weeks of job protection under FMLA and provides almost nothing else. Many new mothers piece together their leave from sick day accruals and short-term disability policies that were not designed for childbirth or maternity leave absence. The message embedded in this structure is not ambiguous. Reproduction is a private matter, and its costs are yours to carry. The entry cost is not only financial, it is reputational, relational, and strategic. It begins before a woman has told anyone she is pregnant, and it doesn't end at birth. The care cost. Carrying a baby is not the only way into the motherhood cost loop. Caregiving of children, elders, and loved ones with chronic illnesses or disabilities can equally pull women out of full participation in paid work across every decade of their lives. I did not become a mother until my 30s, specifically 32. But I had been a caregiver for 20 years before my daughter was born. Grandparents, aunts, family members whose needs arrived without schedules or permission. Every one of those roles was unpaid, each performed before work and after work and on weekends. I've seen enough women on this familiar path to know in most families, the person who absorbs the care gap is still, reliably, a woman. The International Labor Organization estimates that unpaid care and domestic work, overwhelmingly performed by women, has been estimated at nearly 9% of global GDP if it were fully valued as economic activity. It isn't counted. It does not appear in performance reviews. It does not accrue to a pension. What it does is extract time, health, and capacity from the women performing it at a rate that builds slowly, silently, invisibly, and without compensation. According to the Family Caregiver Alliance, approximately 75% of family caregivers are female. The care burden is not distributed, it is assigned. The exit cost. Despite the narrative that women choose to leave, the data tells a more complicated story. Many caregivers are pushed out, the childcare system collapses, and there is no backup. An elder's care and needs escalate beyond what evenings and weekends can hold. A pandemic arrives and the school closes and someone has to be home, and that someone, in the majority of households, is the mother. The National Alliance for Caregiving and AARP reports that roughly 1 in 5 working caregivers has had to leave the workforce at some point. 63 million Americans are performing unpaid care work right now. In the United Kingdom, Carers UK documents more than 2.6 million people who have quit jobs to provide care, approximately 600 a day. The exit cost is altruistic at its core. It is also self-injurious in ways the person making the sacrifice rarely has time to calculate. Who is counting the cost when you're in the middle of meeting an immediate need? I wasn't counting. I was managing. I was problem solving. Those years of managing were among the most productive of my life. But I have no 401k contributions from those years, no employer match, no compounding returns on the money I never had the chance to invest. The productivity was real. The financial record of it does not exist. The reentry cost. Returning to work after a career interruption is not a return to where you were. It is an arrival somewhere lower, with a resume gap that will be questioned in every interview, and a wage offer that reflects not just your experience, but your absence from the market. The reentry penalty is documented and it is structural. Workers do not simply resume their prior earnings trajectory after an interruption. They reenter at a discount not proportional to the time they were out. A 2-year gap does not produce a 2-year setback. It produces a permanent recalibration of the base from which every future raise will be calculated. Career trajectory is altered not only in titles and salary, but also in relationships, sponsorships, and visibility. The years most women spend outside the workforce are typically their 30s and 40s, the same window where leadership pipelines are being formed and high potential employees are being identified. You cannot afford to pause on the ladder of upward mobility. There are only 2 options, up or out. When you return, you are more often on an entirely different ladder than the one you left. The legacy cost. Everything accumulates here. The lower reentry wage, the raises calculated as percentages of that lower wage, the years of reduced Social Security contributions, the 401k balances that weren't funded during the exit years, and those same balances that compounded less upon reentry. The women most criticized for accessing public assistance in retirement years are statistically the same women who spent decades performing the unpaid labor costs that made the economy function. The connection is direct, and it is rarely stated plainly. Unpaid care work today becomes underfunded retirement tomorrow. We judge the person and their personal outcomes and ignore the systems that extract from women's financial futures. The legacy cost is not a side effect. It is the destination. The loop was always moving forward. The motherhood cost loop is not a metaphor for difficulty. It is a description of a financial architecture that functions with quiet precision to transfer the cost of reproduction and care onto the women performing both. In the U.S., feminism gave us access to our own bank accounts, all while the economy extracts at every pay and life cycle. Motherhood is not priceless. Reproduction and care have a very specific price, and for too long, women have been the only ones paying it. Thank you for listening to A Working Record. Next month, we'll be here examining the exit cost within the motherhood cost loop. If you're interested in looking at modeled scenarios where we look at the numbers, feel free to check out my Substack at A Working Record. Bye for now.